and welcome to The Hill is Always Greener, a show where four friends, and sometimes a guest, have chill discussions about Sonic the Hedgehog to distract themselves from the inevitable passage of time, and now more so than ever, and their own rapidly waning ability to relate to the youth, and now more so than ever. I am Faulerro.
I'm RockTheJake.
That's my impression of classic Sonic. I'm CyberLink.
I'm GameBuddy, and I used to be from another dimension, but everyone realized that was a stupid idea.
And who's that over there?
Hi everyone, I'm Ape of the Hour. I hope you're doing well.
Yay!
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Ape of the Hour. It's great to have you.
I don't know where I am, and I'm actually kind of scared.
Don't worry about it, it's fine. You're on a podcast.
Oh, it'll get so much worse.
Oh god.
Imagine waking up and you're on a podcast. Nightmare fuel.
I've done that a couple of times. Like you try podcasting after a bad night of sleep. It's not great.
Oh, I often do.
If that's not made already, I feel like that's going to be like a really like Z-tier horror movie coming out this year or next year.
Very Kafka-esque if you think about it.
I suppose how much of a horror film it is depends on what podcast you wake up on.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the situation that's developing in Antarctica? I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like the movie Speed. Like if you stop podcasting, you die.
If you stop talking, the bomb will go off.
No, when we say dead air, we mean dead air.
Hey, there's the movie. There's the
title. There we go.
This is the movie title.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to our podcast where we come up with new movies.
Yeah.
Your life hinges on how happy the mid-roll sponsors are.
I think we just accidentally wrote like the 12th and 13th Saw movies.
or a segment in the new Final Destination movie.
Their Scarlet Solo just explodes, killing them.
Wouldn't be a Saw movie, it'd be a Herd movie, because it's a podcast. Anyway.
Boo.
I would like to play a game, but first, this advertisement for hymns. Just so you know, this game is sponsored by NordVPN. Hello, Jonathan. You're always proud of your takes, but here, if you take too long with them, you die.
Do your wee-wee no work, use him.
It's nice to know we have a burgeoning career in filmmaking after this podcast inevitably goes up in smoke for not appealing to the youth. Speaking of which.
Or one of us die. So before we get started with the topic at hand, though, Ape of the Hour, thank you for joining us. What's your history with Sonic the Hedgehog, if you have one?
Well, you see, I'm 87 years old.
Oh.
I don't even know what video games are. No, I'm just kidding. My history with Sonic the Hedgehog largely is one that was introduced later in life. I grew up very much a child of a Nintendo household. We mostly had a Nintendo 64. I never engaged in really any Sonic content until Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, of course, came out on the Nintendo GameCube. And I remember seeing it, and this is going to date me, I remember seeing it in Circuit City, of all places.
Oh, yeah.
They had a game demo on a GameCube, and it was City Escape, where Sonic's like running down the side of the building. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
There we go. There we go.
I'm like, what the heck is this? And so like I rented it from Blockbuster once, and I'm like, this is so dope. I gotta get the actual game. And then I did. And then I remember, and then I got Sonic Adventure DX and liking that. And then after that, what did I play after that? I played Shadow the Hedgehog. I remember that.
Good idea.
I remember that also like captivated me as a kid, particularly the fact that the select noise for that game is a gunshot. I thought that was the hardest thing ever. I'm like, whoa, I'm in for a ride.
This rocks.
And I remember distinctly putting I Am All of Me on my little iPod Nano and listening to it while I went on like some church retreat.
My man.
I'm like, I need this in my life. But after that, I played. Around 2006 rolls around. My family gets a Wii, and I play Sonic and the Secret Rings. And that changed everything. I'm like, I hate Sonic. I hate it. And I went on a long wandering hiatus, and by long and wandering, I mean about like 5 years. So
that's an eternity when you're a kid, though. So.
I know it was a very long time. Most of my like high school years, I like despised, and middle school years, I despised Sonic. But then I finally. Went back and I played the classic Sonic games 1 through, I believe, 3. I had the DS collection that they had at the time, and that's how I primarily played it. And I loved those. I really enjoyed those. And then, well, actually, back up. There was another thing. I played Sonic Generations. And then that made me want to go back and play the classic Sonic games. And
it all makes sense now.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then I played a little bit of Sonic Colors, and I liked Colors. And then from there, I don't know. It's kind of been in and out. I've been picking up various Sonic games. I played a bit of Mania, a little bit of Shadow X Sonic Generations as well, but I haven't been keeping super duper up with it in recent years. But I don't hate Sonic anymore.
That's good. That's probably a healthy approach to all of it.
It's not like that, and it's not like that episode of SpongeBob where Apache's like, "Oh, Sonic betrayed!" He throws out all his memorabilia.
I feel like everyone's got like one game that made them go, "No, I don't like this franchise anymore," and then you get over it after a while. But Sonic and the Secret Rings is an interesting one for that, though.
Yeah, funny thing is, I like the theme song of that game. Nothing else.
Well, I sure hope you do, because you're hearing it a lot when you start up the game. Every 5 seconds. That's interesting. Unfortunately, you did besmirch one of the now weirdly beloved storybook games in the Sonic franchise, so people are going to have you have a bounty out on your head for saying such things.
I don't care. Let them come.
Yeah,
heck yeah.
None of them can drive, so they can't get to you.
Exactly.
And none of them have played the games they love anyway, so it's fine.
What are they going to run me over with? A moped? I don't think so.
We kid.
No,
They
They
kid.
are
They're the kids.
Oh my
they are in fact we kids.
Oh, damn.
But it's interesting that you do bring up classic Sonic, because, hey, wouldn't you know it, that's actually our topic for today on the podcast. We are specifically... Now, when I say we're talking about classic Sonic, quote unquote, we're talking about classic Sonic as, like, the character, the named character, who is now a separate character from the other Sonic now, and also, like, classic Sonic as a game series, as, like, the vibe, the whole... Because it's... Classic Sonic is what Sonic used to be. You know, I've got on the outline here, Classic Sonic, or as it used to be known, Sonic, because that's what Sonic was a long time ago. But then things got weird when it changed, and then now we have to sort of separate these things, because I don't know. Well, I do know why, but it's strange that we've got to this point where there are these two major versions of Sonic. It's not that other franchises will have like multiple versions of the thing that they have. But this one is like, that's the old one that's separate from the new... I'm not explaining this very well, but it is a real issue within the fandom. So we're talking about it today. The old Sonic that won't go away, despite going away for a long time. Did that make sense? I sure hope so.
We are in an interesting time where Sega essentially has these two versions of Sonic that they can kind of use for different purposes for their video games. Like, you know, modern Sonic, he gets to have the more now open world things like Sonic Frontiers, and he can also be in, you know, the upcoming Sonic Cross Worlds, at the time of this recording, upcoming. But then we have classic Sonic, who they can start experimenting more with the classic 2D style again, which is great for business. It allows them to, you know, be able to do the old stuff, but also keep doing new things as well. But as far as like the lore, it's made things a bit muddy.
Well, here's the thing, Jake. That's an interesting point you make there about like how it can be good. But when I brought the question out today to people on Blue Sky asking, what do people think about classic Sonic these days? It turns out a lot of people are not so positive in that respect, because classic Sonic coming back means giving up and just relying on nostalgia and lots of things like that. And I'm not criticizing people for having these opinions, but it is really interesting how things have changed and how people sort of see it now as like, oh great, classic Sonic again, that guy, wish he would go away, won't shut up, the bastard.
And then when he does go away, they're gonna be like, "Bring him back." Because you know what, this is like, I'm already getting flashbacks to when people were like, "Sonic has too many friends, and you just make a game with him." And now people are like, "We're all his friends. Bring him back."
I mean, there's a chance those are different people, but at the same time, it is interesting how that seems to happen. But, you know, how can I ever miss you if you never go away, I suppose. But it's kind of weird that he has to go away because he's supposed to be Sonic, but now there's 2 Sonics. And technically 3. Well, actually, there's not 3 anymore. They gave up on that, but it's fine.
Well, if you count movie Sonic now, there are 3.
Oh, you're
3
right.
separate.
Yeah.
There's one that actually did well and has a productive franchise that's separate from the main one and is making lots of money and kids love, which is very upsetting to people who don't like him, but that's fine. It's whatever. I'm looking at my own notes here. I actually started off my document saying, back in my day, things were good because I was younger and had fewer responsibilities. That sums up the entirety of this episode, actually.
And kind of this podcast.
Yeah, kind of. Hot off the heels of our like Japanese versus Western Sonic, we're doing another one of those where we reflect on how good things were actually, and you don't know. It's not going to be that. We're actually going to look at other people's perspectives. But yeah, we're just covering. We'll start from the beginning, like in the old days, back in 1991, when they were like, "Oh, that Mario guy, screw him. We're gonna have our own one, but he's cooler and he's an animal and he's the best guy ever, actually." And it took him a while to work out which he was going to be, but that's fine. They were just like, "Yeah, look, this is our guy. He's got an attitude." And you know, that's going back to it. You look at what Sonic was back then. He was a pointy little bloke, very blue, not red like Mario, so that's how you knew he was different. He was on the other end of the scale. And there's Sonic. There he is, in all his 90s glory, looking at you. Little bastard. Look at this. You just have to look at his little face. He's just a little cartoon character. He is, but he's also not. He's untouchable in that respect. He's got an attitude. I don't know if you know that. They bring that up a lot.
Wait, he does?
Yeah. I know, because I know I was there when these games came out, so I have that sort of like on the ground kind of like, oh, wow, who's this new guy? When Sonic 1 was a thing and Sonic 2 were a thing. But how do we still feel about those old days? Because we've covered the old classic Sonic games, the original trilogy, so to speak, actually more of a quadrilogy? I don't know what you would call it. We've talked about those in depth on the podcast, but how do we still feel about those? About Sonic in his beginning, so to speak, in his genesis, if you will.
His Sonic origins?
No.
Well, I think I want to approach it from I think a different perspective, and it might have been spurred from, I think it was Mark on Blue Sky responded to you, Mark Teo, old friend, who brought up an interesting thing to where a lot of the classic Sonic renaissance, and I think it did start with Generations, where they wanted to try and, hey, we can have both. But I feel like classic Sonic now is the, let's appeal to the older fans with this. Like, and Mark specifically mentioned, like, all of the adult size, like, novelty t-shirts and all usually just have classic Sonic and might have another character. But I mean, unless it's like, it's so weird that like Sega of America has, I forget what you call it. Oh, like print on demand t-shirts, and it's a bunch of like stock art, and 90% of it is classic Sonic stock art. And there are other characters, but yeah, it's like, hey, old folks, you remember this? And I feel like that's almost the exact opposite of what the modern Sonic redesign for the Dreamcast was. Like, modern Sonic was supposed to be like, okay, our fans are getting older, now they need an even cooler protagonist. And I just think that's interesting that I think both classic Sonic and modern Sonic can coexist, but I think it is a weird, like, you get into the business type aspect of it when you think like, okay, Sega's obviously had to say, well, what are both of these Sonics for? And now it's like modern is their kind of catch-all. He's the mascot of the company, of the series as a whole, but that classic Sonic, we got to keep him around for the old heads now. And I just think it's kind of interesting. I think that's led to them, we talked about it in our Sonic Generations, of them actually kind of redesigning classic Sonic to look more like soft and friendly. Like, I think we decided, like, his Sonic 1 sprite specifically, like, that's why he's a lighter blue now. And I just think that's interesting. When I think of classic Sonic, I think of like, no, he's supposed to be cooler and more like hardcore and, rebellious than like Mario, who is just a fun little guy.
That is interesting. Well, we're jumping ahead a bit by talking about that, but I was talking about that with the same guy on Blue Sky, that it is weird that they've decided, classic Sonic's for the old people, because adults didn't grow up with modern Sonic, except for they did, because that was 26 years ago when he showed up.
27.
Oh my god.
It's 98 for Japan, so...
Oh, you're right, technically. Man. So yeah, it's so strange that a lot of people were kids, and Sonic Adventure 2 was out for ages. So I don't know, man. It is a bit strange, but I'm sort of like looking at it. But I like to sort of separate myself from that a little bit. I don't want to get too far into how Sega have like gone wrong with it, because they do that a lot. But I do want to think about how good it was when I was young, when he was a cool guy. Because you mentioned they have changed Classic Sonic a little bit as Classic Sonic the actual character. But he used to be actually, he was kind of inconsistent. Some games he looked really light blue, some games he looked really dark blue. But he was a cool little guy, a cool little pointy cartoon bloke. And the games were good, actually. Sorry, I'm worried it's going to be like this for the whole episode, but it's not. We just need to get through the early days of why it was good, actually. We need people to understand that they were. Abe, you thought they were good, right? Yeah, I know you didn't play them first, but you like those games. Please back up my opinion. Sorry.
Yeah, they're good games. Mind you, I'm no completionist, so I think people would get mad at me if I'm like, I haven't gotten like 100% of them. But I mean, when I did play them, I did have fun. I mean, they were challenging for me because, I was a noob, but yeah, I think that still hasn't gone away. I find it interesting in the current modern video game landscape that it seems that not only Sega's doing this, where there's this distinction between modern or contemporary Sonic and classic Sonic, but a lot of other older video game companies are doing the same thing as well. Nintendo has, of course, like new Super Mario Brothers and then just regular Super Mario Brothers. They have Metroid Dread and then Metroid Prime. They have currently like the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom style Zelda, and then they have these smaller like Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom type top-down isometric Zeldas. And I think it does kind of like play to the fact that I think they're afraid to evolve, and they just want to make everybody happy. In that, like, there are like kids that are new to this, and they want their mainline thing to be the big thing, but they also want to placate like the older fan base, as well, as opposed to, people learning that what you thought was cool has evolved and changed. That sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, as a staunch advocate and lover of retro video game titles and video game history and things like that, I can confirm that the original Sonic the Hedgehog games are pretty dope.
I'm glad that you mentioned, those distinctions in Nintendo, because that was honestly something I was thinking about in the lead up to this episode, that, especially like with Sonic's most direct video game comparison, Mario, because that's just how it's been for the last 100 years.
Forever. Since time immemorial.
Exactly. Like Nintendo does have this duology of having like Super Mario, insert word here, for the more like open 3D games. But then you also have I don't think they use the moniker anymore, but like, yeah, the new Super Mario Brothers, like Wii U, stuff like that. And then like even Super Mario Wonder like kind of fits into that because it's purely 2D side scrolling. And like, Sega gets to kind of have in on that cake too with, like I said earlier, like modern Sonic gets to have Sonic Frontiers and Sonic Crossworlds and like these bigger open-ended, or at least it really comes down to just like perspective for the most part. Like 3D, you get modern Sonic. Even if it's 3D modeled 2D side-scrolling, you get classic Sonic. And so that's kind of their way of taking a bite from that cake too. So from, we talk about the lore and everything, but also from a business standpoint, that's kind of them, doing their version of what Nintendo does, but what they don't. Nintendo don't. There you go. That's the catchphrase.
It's made more complicated though, and I suppose we're getting far ahead there, but by the fact that Sonic's different in those and Mario isn't. Like Sonic Mario is like, there is a stark difference in gameplay, but obviously you look at classic Sonic, he's the same character, but he's a different guy. And you look at modern Sonic and there's that lanky mofo over there, and it's a whole
I think personally that comes down to Sonic having to be cool based on the time he's in.
Right.
While Mario is just like a consistent character throughout. He's like, he's jovial, he's jolly, he's happy. He's kind of like Santa Claus. But if Santa Claus were a video game character. But Sonic has to keep with the sensibilities of the time he's in. So like classic Sonic was very like late 80s, early 90s, kind of glitz, glam, kind of flashy, really fast. But then in the 90s with the Dreamcast and Sonic Adventure 2, he gets more angular and edgy. And he's like, this is a new millennium. This Neon Genesis Haven Sonic. This has to be cool. This has got to be hardcore. We need these shoes that grind on rail.
Who let Macho Man Randy Savage into the call?
Oh yeah.
That's kind of the problem. Is Mario doesn't need to be cool because he's Mario. Just look, but Sonic is like a cereal mascot in that respect, that they've got to keep updating him to appeal to the kids. So, oh man.
Yeah. And if they can't update Sonic, they have to introduce a new character like Shadow. And then you go like, okay, he's really cool, but what if we gave him a gun?
It was the time where people liked having guns.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
But to kind of talk about classic Sonic a little bit more, I think some of this distinction that we have is also because even in the early games, like I'm not besmirching Mario in any way, because the Mario games are still very good to play. I can.
Hey, we're on a Sonic podcast. You can besmirch Mario as much as you want.
Mario sucks.
But like the Mario games did some really fun stuff gameplay wise, and so did the Sonic games. But I think like especially with us having revisited the original games, the Sonic games did some interesting stuff story wise too, because I know that Sonic 3 is like one of your absolute favorites, if not your absolute favorite, Chris. And I think about like the really cool like environmental storytelling of like the Death Egg inside the mountain and then rising up, and then when you play Sonic and Knuckles, that takes place right afterward, and like the title screen has the Death Egg falling like on the title screen, and there's like a lot of really cool like either direct or environmental storytelling that Mario I don't think was really doing at the time.
Mario has sometimes actively avoided putting story content into its games. Like stark contrast to Sonic, so which is both a strength and a weakness.
The only time that they really like diverged from the Mario formula is in Super Mario Sunshine, but I think that's about it.
That is kind of true. There was actual voiced cutscenes in that, and that game is controversial for many reasons, and I feel maybe that's part of it.
I'm a chuckster.
I love Sunshine, by the way. I know
I do too.
there's
It's my
discourse around it, but
favorite.
yeah. All right, my man.
It's like a what's and all kind of game. You know, you either if you like it, you sort of have to be like, well, there's that part of it, but whatever.
Well, it's interesting because I see this discussion pop up a lot, and it might just be the rise of YouTube people, but like, I think it's perfectly fine if you want to say like, oh yeah, Sunshine is probably the worst, 3D Mario game. It's still a 3D Mario game.
Yeah.
And like, it's I guess it's mostly just like Nintendo only fans are not that. Oh man.
Well, hang on.
I really stepped
Poor
in
choice
there.
of words.
Yeah, probably leaving that in. It is people. Let me rephrase that. It's people who make their personality just playing Nintendo games will talk about how like, oh my god, Mario Sunshine is the Sonic 06 of the Mario series. It's such dog crap. And I'm like, it's still a first-party 3D Mario game, and I'm like, y'all need to play more games, okay? Y'all need to go back to 1994 and go rent Aero the Acrobat for your Sega Genesis and then tell me you know what a mediocre mascot platformer is. Like, same thing with people who now try and say like, oh man, classic Sonic was never good. It's like, no, come on, man. Like, I know we all love Gex the Gecko and Bugsy the Bobcat.
We sure do.
And how they're married now, but no, those games, that is a not good mascot platformer. So it's just one of those things. I guess it's just hyperbole has gotten worse on the internet.
Yeah.
That's the only point I'm trying to make.
There's no consequence for it.
Just think of this little guy, this dude. Every time you mention like people who are Nintendo only, my life is like a video game.
Oh my god.
Trying hard to save them.
Only reason I know that song is, I think it's Kyle Smealy, who is an artist I love. They have their comic is called Softies, very good. But they did a sketch of Tangle the Lemur jogging, and they are listening to that song. And I was upset because, yes, Tangle the Lemur would listen to that song.
Getting us back to Sonic, because Mario, who talks about Mario on a Sonic podcast? Us, occasionally, weirdly. But it's kind of fun looking back at the old games because they were like colourful, fantastical little things with unreal environments, and even when they were going to like real locations like the chemical plant and casino and that, you were like, oh, but this is a weird, silly little world full of animal people doing animal things, and it was separate from our own, and there was like a real vibe about those games that really stood out to me. And I guess there were colourful games games were colourful at the time. It was the 90s. You had to grab kids' attentions with these wacky little environments, but there was something really pleasant to look at, and it was fun to play, except for unless you're the kind of person who struggles with that kind of thing, because I hear that a lot now, that they try playing those games and I tried holding right and I died. What happened? Because that it doesn't come naturally, but by golly, if like the games aren't punishing you for going fast, they're rewarding you by letting you go fast. I probably said that before on the podcast, but it's worth stating. Sonic, you have to learn how to play. So these games are very unique, and it's hard to adapt those to a 3D environment because they are so uniquely tied to running just 2D sort of gameplay, I suppose.
I don't know. I really wonder where the whole hold right for classic Sonic came from. I guess is it like bleed over from some of the portable titles, and I don't mean to jump ahead, but from some of the portable titles that maybe did encourage that a little bit more, like Sonic Advance, Sonic Rush, that were less like the exploratory master this level layout like the classic ones, and more like, okay, you should blast through here as fast as you can. In fact, we're going to give you some things like the boost and rush that kill enemies, and I don't know. And then people just thought because it's 2D Sonic, like, oh, this is what classic Sonic was like when it was never really like that. Like, I even think about, how Sonic CD was like the different one, but is now considered right amongst the classics. And it is also very different, much more about exploring than it is going fast. It's more like explore, find a place where you can go back in time and then, use the level layout that you have learned to use that time travel boost. I don't know. I just think that's kind of interesting. I feel like more people, even people not in the Sonic bubble, will push back on you if you're like, oh, it's just hold right to win. And anyone who was around back then was like, no, most 2D games weren't like that.
I think it might even go back to Sonic 2, for example, because Emerald Hill Zone, like that first level, it's very straight. Like, there's little pushback for if you do want to hold right and get to the end. Like, there are some obstacles and stuff, but I feel like that's one that people would like do a lot of speedruns with, because it's the environment's fairly. The terrain isn't like Sonic 2 didn't have quite as an advanced terrain as as Sonic 1 or even Sonic 3 after it. I feel like that's. So if you're playing that one, you might be and you got the spin dash as well, so you get to and try and speed through it as quickly as possible.
And I mean, Chemical Plant also has a lot of like, hey, just go for it. Yeah. In fact, the game can almost not keep up with you. You're going so fast. But
Chemical Plant will also kill you like soon right after that. So
yes, exactly. I feel like Chemical Plant is actually a good, like, okay, now do some platforming. You actually have to play this game.
It does. Sonic takes some getting used to, like in those early days. I can understand why people who've played like later Sonic titles where there's nowhere near as much of that might not get along with the early style, because it's not easy to get. In fact, I remember struggling with it as a kid. But you sort of push through a bit and learn how it works, and eventually it's like, oh no, actually, it's fun when I actually earn my own speed as opposed to just hoping it works out. I don't know. Sonic games, the old Sonic games take a lot of time to get used to, but when you get it, it's worth it. But I can understand how people don't have time for that, because hey, gotta go fast, right? Also, there's the music, I suppose. Like, Sonic's musical identity actually changed a lot, even during the classical era, because the first two games are like, we talked about him 100 times, but Masato Nakamura with those iconic, wonderful poppy synthy tracks that he made that are locked behind royalties forever. So Sonic the Hedgehog's theme is no longer accessible to them unless they cut him a check. There's the Michael Jackson music of Sonic 3 that they got rid of pretty fast. There's the lovely stuff that Jun Senoway put out for Sonic and Knuckles and even Sonic 3 and like games afterwards, but it was still a different style. And of course, Sonic CD did its whole ass other thing. Did two different things if you play like the US or the Japanese one. And that was when they were finally getting used to CD audio, and that musical identity is so much different from what Sonic would be later on. So, oh man, the classic Sonic is kind of very much its own thing, and so much of it is more than just that one Sonic 1 snare drum that they keep using in all the games, the classic games now.
I think that a lot of things that, I mean, Sega definitely doesn't acknowledge it, and I think a lot of fans, depending on how, just their level of involvement, doesn't want to acknowledge is that there are different eras of classic Sonic. Like, I feel like the classic Sonic that Sega is focusing on is obviously the classic games, but I feel like a lot of the visual identity now is just Sonic 1. Yeah. Sonic 1 and 2. Like, I say more Sonic 1 because, again, like, they have to justify, like, classic Sonic being that lighter blue now. But, I mean, Sonic 3 has a completely different Sonic sprite than those first two games. In fact, he much more resembles, like, the the Sonic CD, Sonic OVA opening. And you can also see how the kind of in between modern classic Sonic from the Saturn era, like, is also a very unique design. He is starting to get taller and lankier. He is starting to get more like that graffiti, just those wacky poses that a lot of modern Sonic art of the time has. And I think that might be its own subject altogether, is like, how do you reconcile the fact that classic Sonic means more than, it's not just that guy on the box art for the first Sonic game.
It's absolutely true. Even in Sonic 2, he was like a darker shade of blue. Like, it changed so much. Visually, it changed. Musically, it changed. Like, on the Saturn era, you had those RockTheJake soundtracks, which are very unique in their own right, and busting out vocals that we all remember, and we can't shut up about, thanks to Sonic R. Jesus Christ, they will never leave. It really is interesting that, like, the gap between the games and the consoles is so much more than just, like, even between the Saturn era and the Adventure era, which we'll get to, I feel like there's a big leap visually and aesthetically, and so much. It's so strange. Classic Sonic's good, actually. But he's just not one consistent thing, as you mentioned, yeah. Like, they tried to tie it down to one thing, but it's not. Because, yeah, it wasn't a long period of time when he was around. How many years was it? Because it was 1991 to 98.
Basically 7, 8 years.
Lord, that's not a long period of time, but people did a lot during those times, during the video games. They were able to make games a lot faster, and maybe not for healthy reasons. But nonetheless, they covered a lot of ground during that time, so...
It's also worth noting that it wasn't just the games as well. It was also all the external media, the comics, the shows, all that other stuff, which, even if it was a shorter time, there was a lot packed into that time.
That's why so many people are connected to it. It's not, yeah, you're right, and I should have acknowledged that. It's more than just the games themselves. It's everything that surrounded it, which is why so many people got attached to it. I certainly maybe got not a little unwell about it, like I did as a child. So because I had all these cartoons, because we had all those comics, because we had the novels and golden books and choose your own adventure books and catch up and so on and so forth.
And don't forget the stage show from Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, that's true. The iconic Sonic Live in Sydney show, which I totally knew existed back. No, I didn't. I don't want to get too bogged down in this era, but we kind of have to, because that's where all this comes from.
It's kind of a focal point.
The focal point is this, and we can't just gloss over the fact that, this is why people cared, was because of these games at this time, and everything from the Death Egg Little Planet era was stuff that is always going to stick with me. And even as Sonic tried dipping his toe into 3D on the Saturn and so forth, or even on Sonic 3D, which wasn't actually 3D, but it was an attempt at doing that sort of thing, you started to get the vibe that, oh no, the gameplay style, which was a hit formula up to this point, it's a little tricky to make work in an open environment. So you could start, like, maybe the rocky transition everyone talked about started off back here, I don't know. But we've got to get out of the 90s eventually, unfortunately. Well, actually, we're not getting out of there just yet, but we do, because I keep forgetting, it was still the 90s.
99.
Oh yeah, in America, right, that's right. That was the release of the Dreamcast. Everyone loved the Dreamcast. Everyone loves talking about how great the Dreamcast was.
I know I did.
Everyone bought one, right? You actually had one, all you people who keep talking about how great it was, right? You supported it.
I still have mine.
I still have mine. It's so yellow.
That's right. I'm looking right at it.
Yeah, it's just right over there.
The Dreamcast happened and everything changed forever. Because with the Dreamcast, this is where it all began and ended at the same time, because Sonic Adventure, everyone, you got to open your heart to new Sonic, because the old one is dead and gone. Well, not really, but there was definitely an adaptation that happened here when they decided that, and I think some of it was intentional, because, actually, no, it was intentional. It was all intentional, but some of it was almost necessary, because moving Sonic into 3D, as we alluded to earlier, they kind of had to stretch him out a little bit. They kind of had to put him on the rack for a little while so that he would actually physically work in a 3D space. So Sonic underwent a transformation, like, both aesthetically by making him the long boy that we know with his green eyes and everything, and also, like, from so many aspects. A lot of the characters changed, the storytelling changed, because now they had the power to actually put voice acting and cutscenes, proper cutscenes in it. Everything changed with Sonic Adventure, and we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, and what's one more time talking about Sonic Adventure?
Why not?
Why not?
Never escape.
I know, at least with my experience with Sonic Adventure, I mean, the first time I played it was on the GameCube. But I remember distinctly, I can't remember the name of the stage, but there's like a segment where you're walking along like a very like sheer cliff face, and in the distance you can see like trees, and there's another like Mayan-esque temple popping out of the tree canopy, and there's like a blue and purple sky, and I remember seeing that as a kid. I'm like, whoa, this is beautiful. I can't imagine being someone in the 90s and seeing that. I think I would have crapped myself. The future is today.
It was absolutely those trailers and those screenshots. The one that's, I think, went on to define like that launch of the Dreamcast is Sonic being chased by that whale on that very detailed, beautiful pier in Emerald Coast. And I can say without going off for hours and hours about Sonic Adventure like I probably could, I do appreciate the level design of that first adventure game, at least when it comes to, I don't know, I appreciate the uniqueness of, like, they obviously started with all of Sonic's stages, and it feels like a lot of the others were like, well, how can we fit this other type of gameplay into this stage framework? But I appreciate the level design as them really trying their best is how do we go from that classic 2D feel of being able to run through these levels. And I mean, just how do we do that in 3D? And just compared to like Sonic Adventure 2, which I like for lots of different reasons, but like the level design in Adventure is just, it's more bigger and open, and I think encourages a little more like exploration, like some of those classic Sonic stages do. And so, yeah, when people talk about the rocky transition, I think Sega themselves put a lot more thought and effort into it than I think a lot of people give them credit for nowadays, or even, 15 years ago.
We like Sonic Adventure on this podcast as much as I often like it. Just recently we were talking about how like everything changed when it got to Sonic Adventure, including like the kind of abandoning a lot of the Western ideals of Sonic, certainly in terms of slowly like weaning us off the Robotnik name and getting Eggman into the fold and things like that, and also dumping Sonic in a city with lots of humans, and that was weird at the time. It was different, but it was a good different in a way. It's so strange because they decided to come along and be like, right, this is the new Sonic. We've given him an edge now. We've tried to make him more Western now because the old Sonic was too cute. And I'm like, my Sonic wasn't too cute. He was a cool guy who called Tails a pixel brain. But, this is them trying to adapt what their Sonic was, their classic Sonic, into the modern day. And it made sense. But by doing this, they did basically put this border up between the old Sonic and the new Sonic, because the new Sonic is completely different now. He still looks like Sonic, but it's like if they shaved Mario or something. I don't know if I can come up with a proper analogy to work out how it would work to make Mario like this. I don't know
Mario's
that they could.
so cute, they have to shave him.
Well, the only thing we have, and I think y'all, Jake, you kind of brought it up, is there kind of isn't the same delineation through Mario. Like, it would be as if they did a 2D Mario game, but they went back to either the color palette from the original Mario Brothers, or they swapped like the color of his overalls and his shirt again, and that would be like, this is classic Mario. He's back, everyone. But
And he's voiced by Lou Albano.
Yeah. Oh no! Don't give him ideas. With the power of AI,
no.
we've
No, he's
resurrected
voiced
Lou
by-
Albano's dead soul.
He's voiced by Bob Hoskins.
No, he's voiced by Peter Cullen. We established this.
Yeah, there you go.
He's the only one who's still around out of all of those.
And I mean, we kind of touched on that in our Japanese Western Sonic, is that Mario he's less of a character on purpose. Not that it's a bad or a good thing, but no, Sonic always had extra stories and stuff that was meant to, like y'all already said, he has to be cool, and that changes. That changes throughout the years. Mario's just Mario. He's a guy. He's the same little guy.
He's just a little guy.
Yeah.
Mario,
He just wants some cake. If you gave him a piece of cake, he'd be perfectly happy.
And it's funny. I just thought, like, you know, if you went back to and put like voice clips of Charles Martinet's Mario character he created on like in the original NES games, I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? That fits.
Yeah.
That's still Mario. And then I realized, oh, they did that with the Game
games.
Boy
Yeah.
Advance Mario games.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
people at the time thought it was a little weird, but looking back, I'm like, no, because that's just Mario. Mario is Mario. Sonic has to be different just by his nature.
Mario is a little guy. But Sonic was a little guy as well, and then they made him a long guy. I suppose if they did it to Mario, he'd be Luigi. So, I don't know.
Waluigi is like the closest we would get if they just said like, and this is the Mario redesign, and he goes, wah, and he has a gun. I think that's like the only
Hey. Mario had a gun on the Super Nintendo. You can't stop him.
I know. Yoshi was his accomplice. His getaway partner.
But now Sonic's music is butt rock. And we love
Whatever
it.
that means.
But that was
Butt rock here.
It was different. I know that now they're like, okay, we've got CD audio and we can make any music we want. What have we done? Johnny, get in here. Be all open your heart down for us, and that'll be great. God, it's so interesting that they decided to do that. I love that music. It was to be fair, I'm not sure if it would have worked if they did the old the classic poppy style Sonic stuff with what they were trying to do here, because they're doing a bigger, deeper storyline. They're doing a storyline with a genocide in it, basically. People died in the past, and there's a water monster, and lots of people may not have died in the actual story in Station Square as well. We don't know.
Don't worry about it.
So.
Well, that's the fun thing you mentioned about the remix, like Sonic Adventure, or the music in Sonic Adventure, which does indeed have a lot of like really heavy, Jun Senowei-ass guitars. Yeah. But I mean, that game is also full of tons of like jazz and techno and and Sonic Adventure 2 after it, I just think and I know we're not seriously taking the butt rock allegation seriously, but a lot of people do. And I think the two adventure games are like, they were throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying like, okay, let's give all these characters like unique themes, and then let's take our music from there. And I don't know if using quote unquote retro style music or classic Sonic style music would have worked for Sonic Adventure, but I don't know. I just keep coming back to like, well, they were already doing different musical styles in the classic era with other games, and
just look at the two soundtracks for CD and 3D.
yeah, 3D Blast. I don't know. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's only because throughout the course of this episode, I'm realizing like, oh wait, like this forced dichotomy of classic and modern Sonic really is like, it's not really there except from a marketing standpoint now.
It's very Inception is a Sega creation. The fact that we have used the term classic Sonic is something that they came up with to separate these guys out. So yeah, it kind of is artificial. But hey, it's Sonic. Everything's made up in it anyway, so whatever. After Sonic Adventure 2, we all Sonic Adventure 2, nobody can get over that game. It's memorable, it's great, it's shaped the fandom for a long time.
It was my first Sonic game.
It was a lot of people's first Sonic game.
Exactly.
It's real good. It awakened a lot of people to bat boobies. It's we all remember it.
I think it awoke a lot more than that.
But, that was great and all, and that had a serious storyline, and that was like, a child died in it, it's great, we never shut up about that either. But then Sonic Heroes happened, and Sonic had to be multi-platform now, and it had to appeal to everyone, so like, oh shit, well, I guess people remember the classic games, right, so we'll do and then they started pulling things from the classic games, but also mixing things from the 3D games, and it was a bit weird, actually. As much as I do have some fond memories of Sonic Heroes, it's kind of a mishmash. It's got those colourful environments. It brought back Chaotix from Knuckles Chaotix, the game nobody played. It's
except for podcasters.
Yeah, for us. But it was kind of strange that they did all that stuff, and then they were like, well, people remember the old games, right? So I guess we'll do a bit of that in here. I don't know. How are we still feeling like in 2025 about Sonic Heroes? I don't know if you even played it, Abe.
I have not, no.
Oh, wow.
I think it's one of the few Sonic games I still haven't played.
Yeah, don't go out of your way for it.
I remember having a Sonic Heroes brand Sonic action figure when I was a very young kid. I had one of Sonic. Well, actually, no, my younger brother had Sonic, and I had Tails. But Tails, the plastic was really heavy, and it just broke off. So it was Tails without any tails.
I mean, we revisited for this podcast Sonic Heroes. What was that? More than a year ago now? And
yeah, it's about 2 years.
I remember my frustrations with the gameplay, and I don't think I don't think I've softened on those. I have softened on just the vibes, I guess. And maybe part of that is the Sonic Generations re-release and some of the racing games, and being able to say that I do appreciate the design and the like you just said, the kind of embracing the hyper colors of the classic Sonic and the lighter story. It's like, oh, it's just fun. We're bringing all these characters together. The story isn't that complicated until you get to the fact that Metal Sonic is also there. So I think I have softened a little bit to where I would tell just about anybody to give it a shot, but I wouldn't say I totally dismissed all of my critiques on the gameplay. I think they're still there. I like what it did, I will say, as far as like the design and the differentiating itself from the adventure games, which, I mean, makes it even funnier that the game after that was Shadow the Hedgehog, which used a lot of the same assets, and seems like the complete opposite. Like, oh yeah, Sonic Heroes, we have to appeal to everybody, so let's lighten it up, let's take, more colors, let's do some character redesigns, and then Shadow the Hedgehog, which I do still think has some great design choices, but seems like this is the most 2005 Sonic game we could possibly make, which is not a statement on quality, just a statement of fact.
Yeah, the only reason I even bring up Sonic Heroes here is just because of the fact that they were like, oh, well, here's a little bit of that classic stuff that people actually remember from Sonic, but not too much of it. But also it's got a bit of an identity crisis because it doesn't quite know what game it is or how to work as a game.
Mm-hmm.
But I do.
I mean, they were even, having a little bit of that even as far back as Sonic Adventure 2, obviously with the unlockable Green Hill level.
Yeah, true. I keep forgetting that was in there. Yeah. And to be fair, it takes a lot to actually unlock, so it's not even worth it, really. But it's there. So they were fiddling around, and I suppose that's partly because it was an anniversary game as well. That's the thing I forget is that it was the anniversary game of the time. So
I know Sonic Adventure 2. I think I've shared that story. Really felt like the end because Sega was very open about, yep, the Dreamcast, we're taking it out behind the shed, but Sonic Adventure 2 is still coming out. So I don't know. Maybe that's the last Sonic game ever. We don't know. We will talk about it in depth later, but the biggest problem I have with Sonic Superstars is everything's, I like a lot of the decisions they made, and then lots of things that should have been a slam dunk kind of bring it down. A lot like Sonic Heroes, a very bright, colorful game with minimal but engaging story that has a lot of cool things to do with Metal Sonic, but then all the bosses suck and are bad, and by the end of it, you just wish they'd done something different. That's my feelings on both of those games.
Yeah. There's a lot in common between those interesting steps in Sonic's history. We're going to have to talk about it eventually. Well, Jake, get ready for that. I know you still have sore feelings about that game.
That final boss specifically,
yes, the final boss specifically. The game I still like. The final boss can go to hell.
Go to hell.
Might as well, and we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that they hadn't fully given up on 2D Sonic, and then that's what the handheld games were essentially for. Because we started with Sonic Advance, and that was Dimps getting it right. Yeah, it didn't have the classic Sonic appearance, but it played like them. We've talked about it on the podcast.
Building off of good old Sonic Pocket Adventure.
That's right. I keep forgetting that was the Sonic Advance Zero, essentially. I don't know if you've played the Advance games, Ape, but they're pretty good from what I've played of them.
From what I've heard, I have heard the same thing, but I have not played them yet.
So yeah, Sonic Advance 1 is pretty much like an actual Sonic 4, to be honest. Like, if Sonic 4 was good, that's more or less what it is. It's a good little game. Sonic Advance 2 is it tries to take... Sonic Advance 2 is where they start taking a bit more in a modern direction, and you start to get the idea of where people get the feeling that Sonic games are a bit hold-righty, but because they're very speed-focused, and Sonic Advance 3 is weird. But nonetheless, still memorable little games. Kind of followed through with Sonic Rush, and technically Sonic Rivals isn't a classic 2D, it's more of a 2.5D, and it's more of a... It's not quite a racing game, but it is sort of like you go up against another dude.
It's pretty racing-y.
Yeah, it's pretty racy.
It's a little racy.
But there was still stuff going on. Like the handhelds were where they could do this, because they didn't have to do the cool new 3D thing, so they could just put them on like the DS and the PSP and the GBA and so forth. I don't know why they did it in that order.
And I feel like this is part of a larger conversation, but I miss having dedicated handhelds where, companies could do smaller, maybe even more experimental games and didn't have to adhere to the, big budget AAA conventions, because I don't think that we would have gotten Sonic Advance or games like that if there was not, dedicated handhelds to put them on so that they could try to do things like that.
I guess that's what phones are for now, but it's still not the same.
A little bit. But now even phones are, their games are blowing up in their budgets.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Fortnite, that's the one everyone thinks of, and that's a big old game. Whatever. Why am I talking about Fortnite on this Sonic the Hedgehog podcast? Oh no, it feels weird.
Is there Sonic stuff in Fortnite?
No, surprisingly.
That surprises me. I figured they would do that.
It's because all the characters are too small to fit the skeleton.
That's right.
You just stretch them out.
Stretch them out again. They did it before.
Yeah, make Sonic's arms spaghetti noodles. Like make it like full rubber hose sort of animation style. People dig it.
I mean, why not? No, they would complain. Well, everyone's going to complain anytime a Sonic thing comes out, so it's fine. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. Okay. But even during this time period, where they were doing 2D games, but it was the modern design of Sonic, which made sense. That was the one they were pushing now. There was, I feel like classic Sonic wasn't completely gone, because I remember, like, it must have been around the mid 2000s. They were still selling like plushies and bags and stuff of the classic designs. I've had that little Knuckles one that I used in that thing in Sonic Shorts, where I had him dancing around wearing a little bathrobe to Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up." I remember that quite vividly. So they were still putting him out on things. It's just the games themselves weren't doing that, to the point that we had like Sonic Mega Collection and the various compilation games that had the old games on them, and the art was modern Sonic. It was a strange sort of disconnect.
Well, I think that speaks to where Sega was at the time, where they did consider them the same Sonic.
Yeah. And they are, even though they're not. It's so strange. I mean, like, we do see this sort of thing happen in other franchises where our character's design will change, but it's still the same character, and they don't explain why, but that's just the style. It's the style at the time.
Yeah, like when Sonic grabbed the Matrix and became Sonic Prime.
Yeah, it's so weird that does happen all the time. I mean, I think it even happened more recently with like the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon like remasters, and then that design kept going in that new Crash Bandicoot, but then both of those characters have had like what, 3, 4, 5, 6 different designs depending on what games they were appearing in.
Yeah.
Like they kind of had their own like GameCube PS2 era, like, oh, here's, what is it, Spyro, you're the dragon, and we cast a celebrity to voice him and he looks different. And then, all the way to like Skylanders and like, oh, we made Spyro this disgusting looking little chihuahua beast, but that's still Spyro.
Well, what they should have done is they should have, for Sonic's new redesign, to really like get it across, they should have made it that this is a different Sonic. He's actually the son of the previous Sonic, and he has a tie now. But the old Sonic is there, sort of like admonishing him for not doing the games properly.
I understood that reference.
I mean, geez, with all the family tree business they were doing in Archie Sonic, like, it wouldn't be that out of left field if they did do that.
Just give classic Sonic a really long beard and a cane and a rocking chair and have him, like, disrespect, like, modern Sonic and go, like, back in my day, I would have found all the Chaos Emeralds already.
And there were only 6! We saved the whole island with only 6 of them! Planted flowers,
and they were all black and white. They weren't in colors.
Yep,
that was what the fancy people had.
Super transformation or nothing.
I hate having more pixels now. I liked only having 16.
Okay, Sunky, let's take you back to the home.
But no, Sonic has to be and I'm not saying this derisively, but I mean, Sonic does have to be like a magical, fairy being that never ages and has always existed. He can't have too much of a history. And speaking of Archie, I don't actually want to know who Sonic's parents are. Sonic is too cool for parents. If Sonic has parents, he needs to be telling them to get lost. He's going to the skate park.
Well, we all know that his dad died in a festering toxic pool, like, before he was born, and that's why Sonic is the way he is. According to the Sonic Bible. No.
Ape's like, what?
Oh my god.
I've got to educate you on this, Ape. It's really important towards Sonic's history that time when he was living in a hedge in Hardley, Nebraska, America.
No, we all know Sonic's dad is James Marsden.
But aside from that bit, the various toys and bits and bobs that were being sold, at least over here in our local game, back when we still had one, the store, not game concept of video games. With the classic games didn't really have a lot of presence in stuff because, yeah, like I was saying, they were insistent that no, the new Sonic is Sonic. It's just that. That's it. You don't need to have the old design because we've got the new one now. So it was weird how like the pre-adventure stuff started feeling less relevant because of it. And I know, to me, in a weird way, the Green Eyes almost felt like a reboot because while they were trying to say like that classic Sonic was, the same guy, I don't know, it felt like that bit was gone now. Like they would allude to some of those things that happened in the games, but it's almost like they moved past them a little bit. I don't know, maybe that's just my imagination. Maybe it's because I was like watching Sonic X, and Sonic X would have like, flashback stuff, and Sonic looked like he does now, and I'm like, no, that's not my Sonic. So I don't know. That's a different continuity anyway. I'm probably just... That's just my inner old Sonic fan speaking out whenever I think about it. And the things I liked, they shoved it in the memory hole and it's gone forever. We've always been modern Sonic. Like 1984, literally. We've always been at war.
Well, I mean, Adventure did kind of do that, but I wonder if that wasn't just like a hardware limitation, when Amy's like, oh, I remember when I went on adventures with Sonic, and
yeah,
she
that
has
makes
a flashback to... Yeah, Metal Sonic, who was not in the game except in that little cameo until DX anyway.
In the game, it makes sense to be like, well, are we going to make a whole classic Sonic and classic Amy model for this one scene?
Yeah. But now I'm thinking like, well, first of all, would they even make a reference implying that they're the same character? And two, like, would they do that? Would they pretend like, oh no, she's referring to something that happened in the modern Sonic times? Or would they just straight up, I'm hoping Sega gets to a point to where I guess they did that in Frontiers by, Knuckles.
Knuckles, that screenshot from Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
The Yakuza-style flashback screenshot to Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I don't know. I think, man, this is, again, just me realizing that business is fake and we shouldn't let companies dictate what we know to be true, even about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Aside from that, though, the only other appearance during this time period that I can think of classic Sonic was from issue 25 of 2007's Archie Sonic X comic, if you remember that. That was that brief time where they created a bunch of rainbow, Pride clones of Sonic, and then he beat them all. And then he made a new one, and it's like, well, he's not quite right, but at least I got the color right. And it's classic Sonic drawn by Tracy Lardley. That's great. And then he gets blown up. It's great.
It's always great when Sonic gets blown up.
Yeah, that's about the closest we got is the Archie Sonic X where they go through Sonic 1.
Oh yeah, that one too.
My favorite. Yeah. When I love it when Amy falls into the lava in Marble Zone and it looks horrible, but she's like, my rings. It looks like she's burning to death. Dante's Peak when the grandma jumps in the acid lake. Or no, it would be more like the other the movie Volcano, where the guy jumps into the lava pit to save a guy and just melts. You see, kids, they used to have what you would call, you got your Barbenheimer and all this competing movies. They used to just copy a movie they knew was coming out. So you had Armageddon and Deep Impact. You had Volcano and Dante's Peak. They don't really do that anymore because movies are expensive. And if they...
That's what Asylum is for.
Yeah. If your movie doesn't make $1 bajillion, it's a failure.
Well, I'm not here to talk about things that copied other franchises. Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog. So, after this is where things changed. At least, it felt like things were changing. For me, it felt like things were changing, because I was there. I was in Game, once again, the former Electronics Boutique. And I remember them talking about, like, do you remember when Sonic was a 2D character? Yeah, that was great. Running around collecting rings. I'm like, I do remember that. Well, Sega have announced that something is coming. A brand new Sonic like that. I'm like, really? And we all fell for it. We fell for that Pikachu in a sombrero.
With a sombrero. Yeah.
We thought we were going back, but we were sold a cheap mobile game under the guise of the next official Mega Drive game. We were hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray.
Speckledorf.
Yeah, Speckledorf. It was...
Not even a word, and I agree with it.
Gosh, playing that episode 1, they're changing that Sonic model from, just taking the green eyes off. That wouldn't have made a difference. Oh my god.
We're talking about Sonic 4, everyone, by the way, just in case you were wondering.
I see.
Just imagine if they had done that, though. Like, oh, it's true, classic Sonic. And I don't think we would have had the classic Sonic Renaissance if they had wasted it on that. Like, it's a good thing they put poor modern Sonic in there because he could take it.
Oh, he's been through this shit before.
Classic Sonic, I think it would have wiped him out of existence, and we would just have Sonic Generations, and it's just, I don't know, it's something else. It's not classic Sonic.
Yeah, not only did they bait us with the possibility of a return to the old design, we actually thought this one would play good, and it doesn't. Have you played Sonic 4 Episode 1, Ape? It's a game.
I have not, no.
Good! It's not good.
From what I've heard, yeah.
I do want to come out in slight defense of Sonic 4 Episode 1 because of the fact that we did replay it for the podcast. It's not a great game, and I'm not going to say it is, but it is not nearly as bad as I used to think it was, and I found myself actually enjoying parts of it, more parts than I thought I would, on our replay of it, and part of me sometimes still thinks, I wouldn't mind going back to that, actually. So, I just want to throw that out there.
I'm glad you're here to say that, Jake. End of sentence.
Yeah.
It was that they were tickling our balls with this one for people who are fans of the old stuff. Like, that's it. They were just like, oh, you remember the good stuff? Remember, here's a design of a crab meat. Oh, isn't this interesting? Oh, remember Momentum and all that? Wink, wink. Yeah, you're going to love it. And then it comes out and it's 4 levels and they're all bad. But there are some elements there that aren't terrible, but it doesn't hold up. It's... and it's Dimps, and Dimps have done better than this. So I guess because it really was meant to be, and we've talked about it before, it was meant to be Sonic the Portable. It was meant to be a throwaway mobile title, and Sega America were like, no, wait, this can be Sonic 4. And then
people download video games now.
Yeah.
What?
We should do that.
So that's what happened. If it was Sonic the Portable and it was just something they put out on phones, I don't think we'd have cared nearly as much, but because they
Probably
made
not.
us care, now we have to care too much.
I think that we probably still wouldn't have liked it, but I don't think people would have hated it as much if it hadn't stuck that little number
Yep.
at the end.
Yep.
We'd have just seen it as a
And
mistake.
I do always try and say we have not revisited yet, but I am perfectly fine saying they did improve things in episode 2. It's still not great, but it is a lot better in certain aspects. So,
I mean, you can only go up from there, really. So, and they did. To their credit, they did go up. It didn't just hold right. But we can talk about something that Ape has actually played, because we can talk about Sonic Generations. Yeah!
Yay!
Huzzah! Yeah, Masato Nakamura's back. They called him up. They cut a check.
As I was going to say, the thing that got me is that at the time it was because they were revisiting Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure levels. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to replay those.
Man, especially with the recent re-release, I do admire, and I mean, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a weirdo, but I mean, I do admire the business decision of Sonic Generations, because the delineation between the modern and classic Sonic, that had to appeal to not only like old heads who haven't played, any modern Sonic possibly on purpose, but just like the average person, like, oh yeah, that's the little Sonic I like. Like your mom looks at Sonic Generations and can tell what it is just from the box art, because they go, oh yeah, that's the old cute little Sonic and that's the newer Sonic. I get it. Maybe I'll check this out because I like that old Sonic. And it just makes me understand maybe why Sega wanted to keep such a big barrier between the two for such a long time, and I'm only now realizing that maybe that's now starting to hurt them more than help, because people now accept that Sonic is just Sonic. I mean, the classic games will always be different, but I think now it's just kind of like, no, we want both, and they can hang out. Like, I almost feel like everything has just one big cycle to where, like, we are now
a
back
Sonic
to
cycle, if you will.
yeah, that people would be perfectly fine if they, I don't know, straight up had a game to where you start as classic Sonic and there's a time skip and you just wake up with green eyes as Sonic.
Hoggerina of time, if you will.
Breath of the Hedgehog.
Yeah, something like that.
Tears of the Hedgehog.
Oh no, he can't do that. He's not allowed to cry anymore, according to Sega Man.
Sonic,
yeah, that's another
cry.
thing.
Give me a second. I'm trying to come up with a pun on Sifu.
Oh gosh, although the hypothetical I put forward, like if they had done classic Sonic and Sonic 4 and it killed him forever, would Sonic Generations just be modern Sonic with it plays the exact same, but it's just modern Sonic going through the classic levels with that gameplay, and him being like, oh yeah, I remember this when I was always looked like this back in the day. Let me have a flashback, and it's just modern Sonic and everything.
That might have been what happened. But Sonic Generations was the good version. It wasn't a complete return to classic Sonic because it was more 2.5D, but it was the best we'd had in ages since like the advanced games. And he was there. Our boy was there. They got to actually acknowledge him again. There was a vibe of moving forward as it went back, which is especially refreshing because it was done intentionally and well. It was very vindicating to have him there and finally be like, yep, there's Sonic. He just wasn't allowed to speak now because that was a decision they had, and that has remained annoyingly consistent throughout outside of the comics. So that's the thing. Modern Sonic can talk. The classic one is mute, and that's just the way it has to be, even if we have to remove those voice files from Sonic CD in future releases, which is a great idea, and I'm glad they did that.
I think it's very silly now. And even in Sonic Generations didn't completely commit to it because Sonic is the only character that doesn't talk.
That's true.
Classic Tails, classic Dr. Robotnik, and I just think it's kind of silly. And yeah. I wouldn't care if he had like a different actor. I've also said not too long ago, I think Junichi Kanemaru and Roger Craig Smith could come up with something for classic Sonic, because they also let him talk up a storm in all those official comics. And like, it's not just, oh, well, Sega doesn't know about the comics. No, we know absolutely they do. They approve every sketched line and every word now. So it's another one that just seems like a false dichotomy of like, no, you could just let him talk now. It's fine. It's different in something like Mania or Superstars that are obviously trying to be so classic that, yeah, no character is going to talk. But as far as, if you're going to keep bringing him back and having him interact with other characters and even like modern Sonic, like, no, just let the little guy talk. He always talked in commercials and, yeah, like you said, even Sonic CD.
So weird, but that's just going to be a thing going forward. They brought classic Sonic back, but he's not allowed to talk. So okay, whatever, fine. We can't all be good.
He's taken a vow of silence.
Oh, Well,
in the time past, he's found religion and he's taken a vow. So
well, he said
found religion. Have you seen the fan art? He is religion.
I know Sonic was at the crucifixion. It's okay. I know.
He was heavily involved in it, as I recall.
I mean, what? Sonic with a fucking spear of Longina.
Love talking about this with our Christian friends on the podcast. It's really great.
No, I'm just imagining.
I'm cool.
Crossing the strip movie Sonic. Oh, they put one of his quills on the spear. It's imbued with power. Oh, they're probably going to do time travel in that new movie, right?
Getting back to Evangelion again.
You'll never get my power. Jesus, do I look like I need your power?
Oh,
Lord.
my gosh.
Oh, boy.
But next on the list of things that happened for classic Sonic is, well, this is great. Does anyone remember Sonic Mega Drive, the comic that Archie brought out, the limited series?
Yes, the one that never got
I know.
finished.
We need to cover it on the podcast, but we won't be able to cover the third issue, which was going to wrap it up. And this is fascinating. I don't know if you've seen any of the comics, actually, Ape. I never bothered to ask if you've read Sonic comics before.
Maybe one or two, but I never got super into them, I don't think.
That's fair. It's very much like, I feel like people of the 90s in particular were like, oh, the Sonic comics, that's our shit. Whether you're reading Archie or my one Sonic the comic.
I did watch some of the cartoons as a kid. Obviously, Sonic X I was like all about when I was really young. But I did watch Sonic Underground.
Oh, what an experience for all
It
of us.
always comes back to Underground.
I remember distinctly the Diner Chain Denny's had Sonic Underground plushes.
Oh my god, we were talking about that on one of our episodes.
Yeah, and I had one.
I used to have one.
I had Sonic and my younger brother had Knuckles, but Sonic had like the necklace on. And I hated it, so I cut it off.
You want to be reminded of that.
I also grew to hate mine, but I just sold it to someone who would give it a good home, and
There you go.
basically said, I need to rehome this plushie because I don't love it anymore. Oh, geez. Again, not to derail us, but yes, the very cool Sonic Mega Drive miniseries, which is separate from the Sonic Genesis miniseries, which was a few years before
Because that was
this.
an attempt at, Genesis was like them kind of adapting Sonic 1 and 2, but with the modern characters in an interesting new take. But this one was just straight up them doing some classic Sonic at long last. Like, this is an Ian Flynn finally getting to do, without reservation or compromise, classic Sonic, and he nailed it, and it was drawn by Mr. Nipples the Enchilada himself, Tyson Hess.
Yep.
So it's pretty fantastic. We got to cover it on the podcast one day. It's really, and yeah, it was just like them showing like, hey, we can do cool stuff with classic Sonic that isn't just video games, because there's still some life here, there's still some mileage here. I'm very fond of that, very excited to talk about it properly.
Something I saw in the comments of our episode of, I believe, with Chris McFeely about the early issues of STC. I believe it was friend of the show Jolene who pointed out that it's kind of hard to do quote unquote straight adaptations of classic Sonic games because there's not a whole lot of story content to pull from. So it's basically just a walkthrough unless you're willing to make substantial changes or additions. And I think that part of the novelty of the Mega Drive comics was that this was basically, adapting a classic Sonic game that never existed. So there was something to that, and it was easier to kind of take that. But if you're going to do, a classic Sonic story adaptation, you kind of need to add more to that because otherwise there's just not a lot there.
That's absolutely true. And it was kind of a similar discussion I had with some of the people on my Blue Sky post about this. Was Like, some people are really a lot more fond of modern Sonic because modern Sonic has so much more meat on the bone when it comes to the stories because of, you know, they are able to have stories. But for us, growing up, a lot of us who were enjoying these Sonic games, is we were taking in things like the cartoons and the comics that sort of added more context and a bit more to it. So we had more Sonic story going on at the time, even if it was a strange adaptation in some of these. I feel like there was Sonic story going on, but it usually required the writers to have to be like, okay, what do I do with this shit? So it would be curious to see if, like, could we long-term have that sort of thing when the classic Sonic doesn't nearly have, nearly as much history to it compared to, like, modern Sonic? I don't know, but I'd like to see them try at least a little bit. Anyway, it's a good comic. That's all else I got to say about that, because we've got to talk about things that Ape of the Hour has actually experienced. And hey, Sonic Mania! Oh, wait, no, I was about to do the Sonic 4 theme for some reason. What the hell? That's the one. That's the one I was thinking of. Sonic Mania happened to us all. We're really blast processing now. It's one game where they were like, okay, here's all the old stuff you liked, and they got people who knew how to do that, and yeah, it's great. Yeah. We've talked about it a lot. How was your experience of it, Ape?
It's really fun. I liked it. I enjoyed it, from what I understand.
Oh, I like it when I get to go to, hey, Abe, did you like the thing I liked? Yeah, great, thanks. Moving on.
No, it was great. I love the music. I love the art style. It's really a solid game. I need to play it more though.
Have you played the Plus stuff, like the DLC for it with Ray and Mighty? That's good. That's a good excuse to replay it.
That is a good point. I have not. I shouldn't really play that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's experiencing the game fresh. It's this kind of like, this right after Mega Drive was sort of like, well, we were getting like an embarrassment of classic riches at this point. They were just like, because this is technically more of a tribute game than an actual new installment. We've talked about that on our full episode dedicated to it. But it's sort of like this great sort of best of the best sampler for new fans to sort of like experience what made those games good, because it pulled from so many of the classic games and even some really obscure stuff, and it was great at the time. We were like, oh yeah, they remembered what classic Sonic actually was. Like, we loved him in Generations, but he's even more classic Sonic now, and they care now, and it's good, and everything's great, and it could never possibly go wrong from here. And then Sonic Forces came out, and oh no.
Da, 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 da.
So Sonic Forces came out almost immediately after this. It was tied in directly to Sonic Mania from the story. Have you played Sonic Forces, Ape of the Hour?
Very small portion of it. Yes.
I mean, the problem was it didn't let you make an ape OC to play.
Yeah, exactly. So it sucks. Like, no.
I can't argue with this.
It's like, oh, here, you can make your own original character. Oh, can I make like a little monkey man? No? Okay, then it sucks. I don't.
Sonic forces me to abandon who I am.
You can get halfway there by taking another animal and putting the Super Monkey Ball eye ears on him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not good enough for me. It's not the same.
That's valid.
Don't you get sick of being nice? Don't you just want to go ape?
Yeah, I do. on that game because it did not include apes as an OC. This is nonsense.
All your apes gone.
My apes are gone. My optimism's gone. I can't handle this anymore.
Yeah, Sonic Forces, I think, is where the real turn on classic Sonic as a concept started. Because let's be real, he did not need to be there.
He did not. It ruined things. Like, that's the thing. And so many people who responded to my post were just like, yeah, Sonic Forces is where I started to sour on him. I'm like, oh, but it was right after Mania. But I get it, because they just decided, and classic Sonic is here in this story too, because he's really popular right now. Anyway, have fun. And it's bad. He doesn't add anything to the game other than Tails' worst story. Like, that's about it.
You know what he adds to the game? About an hour of gameplay.
Jeez,
they needed that.
And it's like Sonic Generation style classic Sonic, but worse.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like that hurts the most is that they I think for the most part they got the feeling right in Sonic Generations, and so when you see like in the commercials and stuff like, oh, you get to play as classic Sonic and Sonic Forces, that'll be neat, and then you do, and it's just like, why doesn't this feel as good? What happened?
And then they added the drop dash, but badly. So
yeah. And then I think also, like, we talk about the age disparity between us and, like, the people we rag on Twitter and social media and such. But, like, there's a good possibility. I don't know if this is true because, I don't really engage with a whole lot of social media, especially Sonic stuff. But it could be, in my theory, that, there's probably some people of a certain age who saw Sonic Mania and thought, that looks like an old game and that just does not interest me. Not saying it's a bad game, but, they just are not interested in that particular art style, but they see the 3D Sonic and that's what I grew up with. That's what I want to play. And why isn't this as good as Sonic Generations?
To clarify, I've seen some people who have, gotten quote unquote in our business about how much we rag on younger Sonic fans or whatever. Let me be clear. We're not ragging on them for being younger or having different experiences or opinions or, just perspectives. We're ragging on them for being shitty assholes to other people.
I am kind of ragging on them for being younger, but that's just me being old.
Wow.
Okay, I am exclusively ragging on them for being shitty assholes.
That's the big issue, really.
Social media ruins everyone.
It really does, and also not having new Sonic games for a while drives the Sonic fandom crazy, and they can't help it. But it's kind of
more Sonic.
I do too.
I need it.
That's the most apist you've sound so far.
I need more Sonic.
No, you got to do it like Virgil and DMC. I need more Sonic.
I need more Sonic.
I'm motivated.
Reveals Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Part 3. Foolishness, Sega. Foolishness.
I am the hog that is approaching. No, I am the wind that is approaching.
Provoking fanboys in isolation.
I am reclaimer of my game.
I'm not allowed to talk.
We're going to have to cover Sonic Forces properly at some point with an actual episode on it and actually replay it. It's actually not going to be that bad. It's a pretty short game, but it's not very good. But this is the point, and loads of people told me this on Blue Sky, that this is their downfall of classic Sonic, and it sucked that it came right after Mania, but because this just felt like empty pandering, having him and things be like, hey kids, remember classic Sonic? We know there's some people who only care about him, so here he is, for no reason, but other than we want to sell more of this game. And so that's kind of when people think of classic Sonic now, I think they think of that cool trailer for Sonic Forces that look really badass and cool, and whoop, hey, there's classic Sonic, woohoo, he's here to be cheerful and fun. And yeah, I get it because it is empty. Even though I love seeing him, I didn't like seeing him in this game because he added nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's the fact that they bothered to directly tie it to Sonic Mania, and then also made the very silly decision to say out loud that, this little Sonic that looks like you is from another dimension. No, man. Even if it was never explicitly said, I feel like every single person in the world just considered the classic games as Sonic's younger days. And even Sonic Generations did that because here's little Tails and he's adorable and he's talking like this, and we're yeah, because he's a little baby, and other Tails is a little bit older. And that's just the stupidest thing about that game, and that game is already very stupid. I think it was so stupid that Sega felt comfortable just pretending oh no, we didn't say that.
Tails Tube came along and was
just a few years later.
Fine, it's not actually. But I do feel that was them being okay, we want to delineate it from
Tails, but you said it. I got hit in the head.
I'm wildly inconsistent.
That's true.
Yeah, there you go.
It's not Sonic, how are you doing? I was tortured.
For months.
Flicks nose.
No, that's like the one part of that game I like. Sonic's being tortured for months. Smash cut. Oh boy, I'm bored. Time to blow this popsicle stand. That's Sonic.
Oh yeah, no, get back to the torture part.
No, get out of here, Dingo.
Take off his shoes.
What are you
Oh no. I hope
They're taking off his socks.
How to fix Sonic Forces.
They're tickling his
Coming
feet.
soon on.
Oh no, it's a 90s cartoon. It happens all the time. God, Adventures of Sonic Robotnik
And
did that more than
Sleeping
once.
Dingo.
It's a concerning thing.
Oh no, I hope they don't use a feather to tickle his feet.
Put him in the contraption.
I've got no plausible deniability here. I really want to see that happen.
I know we had that OC creation episode, but is Dingo like our actual mascot of the podcast?
Until we revisit Sonic Underground, he's going to keep popping up. So
I'd love to keep
we need to look at our schedule. My God, it's like his latent superpower.
Hey, there's a character you might remember, Ape of the Hour. Remember Dingo from Sonic Underground?
Who?
Okay, it doesn't stick with you the same way he did with us, apparently.
Who are you? Where am I? Who the hell are you people?
The big orange dog face who looks like Carface from All Dogs Go to Heaven, but he also somehow has every fetish imaginable, but in like a kid-friendly Saturday morning cartoon manner.
Not ringing a bell?
Don't forget about me. I'll have to tell you everything about myself.
Anyway, yeah, Classic Sonic is past Sonic after that. They stuck around for a little bit and found out that it was a bad idea, so thank goodness.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things.
I love seeing Classic Sonic everywhere. I know that fans didn't, because maybe it did dilute the specialness of stuff like Mania.
Maybe a little bit.
I guess it's just, for me, it was like, I'm just happy to see him again, because he was gone for so long, and it's nice when things that I like come back, and they aren't bad. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, we talked earlier about how like Classic Sonic is like, quote unquote for the old heads now, especially with like merch and stuff. But like for the past couple Christmases, my sis-in-law has gotten me like different Sonic stuff, and it's all classic Sonic stuff because that's just what they slap on T-shirts and socks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to make it clear, I do think that's okay. I'm also not sick of classic Sonic. I like seeing him. I think I really just have a problem with that very business aspect of it, that I've seen the same reused clip art on like 40 different T-shirts. And I really just wanted hire some artists and make some cool classic designs. Yeah. Like, I mean, they've been doing that for the game.
Evan Stanley works for you now. Take advantage of this fact.
Yes.
Mark, our old Sonic Paradox buddy, literally works for Sega doing classic illustrations. And I'm like, man, put that on a T-shirt. That was part of what I liked so much about Sonic Superstars, like flaws and all, is it gave us a lot of great new classic style art and etc. Like, regardless of my problems with the gameplay of that, it gave us a bunch of new classic Sonic stuff. And I guess, again, I'm only sick of the same stuff being regurgitated. Like, if you're going to keep the classic universe around, like, let's see some more new stuff. It just makes me I really hope they don't get scared and back off because Superstars didn't sell like Frontiers did.
That's kind of the thing.
My thing is that, I'm fine with classic Sonic stuff. The problem is that I feel like there hasn't been a whole lot of, use for classic Sonic in a way that like serves the franchise well, as opposed to just being purely for marketing reasons. Like, classic Sonic and Forces, that felt purely for marketing reasons. It did not serve the game. Sonic Superstars, obviously that's great. It's a whole classic Sonic experience, lean into that. That's good. But it's like, anytime they put classic Sonic in as a playable character separate from Sonic in like, a mobile game or whatever, it's like, yeah, sure, fine. But it's like, if they're going to be doing stuff with classic Sonic, I want them to be doing it because like there is actual interesting stuff for them to do with it, not just another character to add to the roster in the same way that they would, and they kind of have been using movie Sonic and everything, and they probably would be doing it more if not for the fact that Paramount is involved and that, have another player to deal with.
Those Sonic Prime characters are right there and apparently going to get used in Crossworld, so...
Yeah, that's confirmed already.
So there we go.
But and that if Boom had not tanked, they would probably still be sticking the Boom designs and stuff too. If they're going to be doing stuff with classic Sonic, I want them to be actually doing stuff with classic Sonic and not just sticking him in to fill a box because that's what marketing says. So,
right.
Gosh, is the only problem we have with classic Sonic capitalism? Yeah. Strike up the band.
The story of Sonic the Hedgehog is the story of class struggle.
Or in this case, classic struggle.
As Brennan Lee Mulligan always says, capitalism is always the bad guy.
Yeah.
unless it's an evil genius in this case with a mustache. But is he capitalist? Maybe.
I mean, he does try to swoop in and seize the means of production from the proletariat. He just starts building factories.
How much is he charging admission for Eggman Land?
I was going to say, he's trying to build... His whole plan is to build a theme park, and surely there's going to be some charges involved there, so I don't know.
I know. Even in Sonic Colors, like, he let Sonic and Tails in. It's like, a preview event. But, I mean, you can't tell me he wasn't bankrupting people just to get on that space elevator.
He could do a Roller Coaster Tycoon thing where everything's free except for the bathrooms.
And if you don't like it, you can get on the roller coaster that never ends and kills you.
Get on Mickey's Dick Crusher.
Yeah, Mickey's Dick Smasher.
The thing about classic Sonic, though, is... And it's one of my biggest annoyances is the fact that they've split.
Yes.
Like, he is classic Sonic again, but also this, and this character can't be in modern now, because even though it's the past, those are classic characters, classic TM characters, and they can't be, and that's stupid.
The weirdest bit is that the Chaotix are considered modern characters and can't appear in classic stories.
That's the dumbest thing, because what we've got going on right now is, I guess this brings us up, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but we've had all of these classic and anniversary specials in the comics, in IDW comics, for each of the characters. Tails is one about classic Tails, Amy's one about classic Amy, Knuckles is one about classic Knuckles, and also Trip. Chaotix is coming out. It's chaotic from Sonic Heroes, onwards. And I get it, because that's what everyone remembers, is them being detectives, and you can tell much more interesting stories about them being detectives. But it's the anniversary of Knuckles Chaotix, when they were classic characters, and you're just like, nah, we don't, I mean... They were always detectives, and Mighty wasn't there. I don't know. I get
Poor
it,
Marty.
but also, it is silly.
I think just drawing these arbitrary lines like these purely for marketing reasons limits creativity and ultimately does not serve the narrative or the potential of what you can do in future games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get not wanting to create classic versions of characters that did not exist in the classic era, but this just seems dumb.
The only stuff we see is obviously like Sonic, Eggman, Metal Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and weirdly, Mecha Sonic, because of Scrapnik Island, apparently. But that's about it. I don't know why it's so strange. It feels like a forced thing, a forced corporate thing, like the WWE brand split, where they're like, nope, this is the other side of the Sonic world, and they cannot intermingle anymore unless it's in a kart racing game. I don't know.
Which I do think they've started to lighten up on it a little bit because of things like the IDW comics, like the big classic Sonic, big time anniversary issue from a few years ago, straight up had characters that, and to be fair, were first introduced in the comic, but appearing in classic and modern stories. And I just hope it gets to I don't know if they choose to make a big deal of it, that we see the barrier just fall down. Like Mighty the Armadillo and Ray Romano are going to just like wander into one of the villages in IDW and just say, "Oh, hey, Sonic, long time no see," like the characters want to do. I mean, I would love it if, like, you could either do that with the Chaotix, like have Mighty just show up and be like, "Whoa, guys, it's been so long. How's the detective business going? I haven't seen you since
it's been generations since I just doing that."
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I want to see these characters they've been focusing on just show up in new stories. Like I feel like you don't have to overthink it as far as like what would a modern Fang the Hunter look like. It's like, well, just make him a little taller, that's it. Like
he looked like he did in Archie when they were allowed to use him in modern stories.
Exactly. Give him blue eyes again, who cares. Yeah, same thing with the reverse. Like, have a flashback where we see how, like, Tangle grew up, except she looks like a classic character because all flashbacks will be classic now or something. I think just to give Sega Sonic Team the benefit of the doubt, I do think they might be working towards figuring all that out with the lore team and Tails Tube. You know, I think maybe they're tackling it one issue at a time, to where they decided, like, well, yes, we do want human beings to play a part in this Sonic world because we have Eggman and Maria. So let's come up with an explanation for why we don't see humans and Sonic characters together all the time. And, you know, maybe we will just eventually get, and here's officially where classic and modern, you know, became the same thing. I don't know. I would hope they're working, because like you said, it is limiting in a way that, like, oh, the dreaded Sega mandates on the comics are exaggerated in their limiting, because I bet the creative team probably has a great concept for introducing these characters into new stories and vice versa, or how to fix all this, and I just hope they get the chance to do it.
Or maybe they would just suck forever. We don't know.
It could be.
Speaking of sucking forever,
could get another Sonic Forces somehow.
Speaking of sucking forever, let's talk about Sonic.
No.
Let's talk about another thing that AP the Hour has not played, and probably for the Sonic Superstars also happened, by the way. We've talked about it on the podcast.
We've talked about it in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's it. I
think it's okay. I wish it was better.
It should have been better.
I feel like I've said that every time.
It should have been better. It should have sold. It should have been as expensive as it was, so people might have actually bought it. It should have been better. It should have been better.
Maybe it should have came out not around the same time as Super Mario Wonder.
That also probably didn't help, because that one's good, actually.
And I mean, That is to go all the way back to the Sega Nintendo thing. I think we even might probably brought this up when we talked about it, but like, that's the big thing with like Mario Wonder, Sonic Superstars, is because Nintendo is Nintendo and they will never run out of their infinite Nintendo DS and Wii money. They were able to just say, oh yeah, Mario Wonder, like, we just let whoever wanted to work on it, and when it was done, it was done. Sega can't do that. Like, they can barely trust a second or third party studio to put out a well-received Sonic game, because they might just have bad business practices. I'm willing to say Sega the company makes some business mistakes, and Sonic Superstars was probably made in what I'm sure was worked on for quite a while, but when the rubber hit the road and they're like, okay, it has to come out on this date, they're not going to delay it because they need that Sonic money. And I think that's the difference there. Sonic Superstars, like a lot of Sonic games, unfortunately, probably could have used another 6 to 12 months on the back burner.
But instead it came out and it was bad, and now Classic Sonic is doomed! Actually, I don't know, but it does feel kind of like it not doing as well. Maybe gives Sega the impression, oh, well, we put all our eggs in one basket here. New basket, I guess, because Yeah.
Yeah. I just hope that that's not it, is that because of the issues Superstars had, that they don't just blame it all on Classic Sonic. And I don't think so, because I mean, you know, stuff like that takes time to catch up with new business decisions. It's the same thing we talk about, like, oh yeah, you know, they established the lore team, but then like Frontiers, Sonic Prime, other things came out and we're like, well, yeah, but the lore team wasn't actually around for those, so we're not going to see it until, I think, Sonic Shadow Generations was probably the first project with them heavily involved. And so, yeah, I guess we'll see when we get probably sometime next year, start to get the next big Sonic announcement, whether it'll just be the direct follow-up to Frontiers 3D Sonic, or are they going to try and do another stopgap classic game? Well, I guess we'll just have to see.
That's basically it for Superstars. We did a whole episode on it. We can't keep you up all day, but yeah, that's the last big thing they really did with Classic Sonic, and it was not great. And the end bit made Jake very, 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 very mad.
That final supersonic boss.
The classic clip that's been immortalized in that episode. Yeah. I do want to say, like, yeah, it's such a shame to me that Sonic Superstars didn't sell as well as it could have, for the multiple reasons. Like, you know, like it needed more time in development and just some of the gameplay things, and you know, really, like we said, did not help being released almost alongside Super Mario Wonder. But
thank God that Sega's never going to release a Sonic game next to a similar Mario game and have to worry about those two competing with one another, right?
I still like the concepts that are in Superstars. Like, especially, I've always liked the thought of the Chaos Emeralds having like specific powers and stuff, and I was like, oh, cool, it does that here. And I hope that, you know, from a purely like hopeful standpoint, I hope that Classic Sonic gets to have another Superstars-ish game that gets a little bit more development time and gets to come up with even more unique concepts, because I like to think that I'm a simple guy and like, you know, I'm capable of deeper thoughts, but I've always been a fan of Occam's razor ever since I first learned about it in school. And I feel like I really feel like we've talked so much about like the dumb decisions about, like, you know, putting up a barrier between classic and modern just for like marketing and stuff like that, instead of just letting it all be one actually cohesive thing. And I say just take the razor to it, like trim the fat, make it simpler, and just let it be. You know, I am Sonic, and here, let me explain that. I was
You are Sonic.
because I have spines now. Because I was a chubby kid who wanted to go fast, and then I grew up, and then eventually I lost the weight, and I still want to go fast, but sometimes I can't.
But you're still the same
I'm
Jake,
still
classic or
yes,
modern.
I'm still the same Jake.
And that's how Sega should have that same
Sega,
approach.
look at a picture of me as a kid and then me now. I am Sonic.
But yeah, that's about it for Classic Sonic. At least if Superstars fucked up as bad as it did, it might be that it. I don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to actually be it for Classic Sonic. I feel like there's still money on the table there.
Yeah, the tradition will go on forever, I think.
Let's hope so.
Do we think that Classic Sonic is going to be in Cross Worlds? And if he is, do we think that there are going to be any other classic characters in there?
Well, here's the thing. I have heard secondhand that maybe that might have been rumored, and Sonic fans were immediately upset by that because, not again! Get him out of my games! He's bad!
No more references.
What a bunch of babies.
That's the thing. They're all babies. They're all children, and I get it. I get it.
The entire team is made of babies.
But when it comes to the new game coming out, maybe. But I doubt it. I feel like the only character they really pull for these things is Classic Sonic. Although if Trip showed up, that'd be great. Like Classic Sonic.
Another character I'd love to see back or make the jump to modern.
I feel like they almost teased that in a Tales tube and just didn't follow through on it.
Yeah, they felt like they were like, oh, maybe we'll meet our old friend again. Well, I mean, we won't, but so it's like, whatever.
They left the door cracked, not open, unlocked at least.
I still think there's possibilities.
Endless possibility.
I've seen people say that classic Sonic the gameplay style is outdated and maybe doesn't fit anymore. And I can understand people who come from that perspective because it is old. And classic Sonic's design might not be as cool anymore because it is of the 90s. I still feel there's a timeless quality to it, but that's just me, because, hey, anything I grew up with is timeless now because I don't like to acknowledge time and the passage thereof. So, I don't know.
Well, everything old is new again as well.
I don't think it's outdated. I think it's just, like in the same way that Nintendo can still do 2D Mario, it's just a matter of taking that simple early formula and finding ways to freshen it up.
And they tried with Superstars just to mixed effect, but it was an attempt there.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with, doing things the old school way as long as there is at least something to differentiate it, because I feel like you can't just have a straight throwback game. You have to at least evolve it a little bit.
Because that's the only way you can really move forward with games. And some people look at classic Sonic and say, like, well, Sega's refusing to move forward here. They're just sticking to what people know for nostalgia's sake. And that's
no, the problem is that they only go forward and then you die.
Yeah, gotta watch out for those spike pits and everything. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's so much potential there. You're right when you say, like, I don't think classic 2D Mario games are outdated because they're always improving them and doing new things. Wonder was great. That was a great example of them doing that. It's so fun and forward-thinking, and I like it. It's difficult to strike that balance, I suppose. We're not all Nintendo. As try as we might to be like them, they're good at that sort of thing.
I think that there is still room for classic Sonic, but like I said, you can't just, throw him in willy-nilly. You've got to, if you're going to have classic Sonic, you got to be willing to actually do something with him. Whether that be, in service of, doing a new game that builds on the foundation of what classic Sonic is, or, having him there for a purpose that, actually expands on the story and the narrative and whatever. I think that right now, classic Sonic as it exists in the year 2025, it just kind of invites cynicism because that's kind of how it's been used with very rare exception, purely as a means of, trying to get the old heads' attention instead of because they have interesting ideas for it. And I think that is what ultimately needs to change if classic Sonic is going to stick around in the long term.
Yeah. I mean, is the solution just being like, okay, it's modern Sonic, but it's 2D games again? Like, that's the only way they do it? I don't know. Because I still feel there's mileage for the guy, but at the same time, God, do we still need him anymore? Do we need him to have those old-style games?
Yeah, you could say that the real evolution of classic Sonic was, Sonic Advance.
Yeah.
And then later Sonic Rush.
That's just me being purely trying to be objective here, because what I'm actually saying is, yes, we do need him, because he's the Sonic I like, but it's really difficult. I don't know what they should do, other than the things I like, but they can't do that all the time, because if they do that, I'm the only person who's going to buy the games, and there aren't enough me's to do that, so... I do question to myself when I look at this sort of thing, is I can't be objective about it because that's the Sonic I like. Am I out of touch? Am I so out of touch? Am I stuck in the past? No, it's the children who are wrong. I don't know.
I'm kind of going back to my Occam's razor thing of trying to keep it simple, and I know we don't always like to talk about the business side of it, but in a positive business sense, I think it's a good thing to keep classic Sonic, not just for, stock art that you can throw on shirts and stuff like that, but from a video game standpoint, I feel like there's still, like I said earlier, even the classic Sonic games were doing some interesting stuff with story, the move from Sonic 3 to Sonic and Knuckles because of the fact that they had to be two separate games. So with that in mind, I feel like there's a precedent for story, and even in a in a more simple sense, a precedent for a timeline, which can, of course, can get muddy. But again, Occam's razor, keep it simple. So what I'm saying is there's a possibility of having more stories and more games to be able to kind of put that gap between Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic Adventure. And I know we've had a few that are in between, because Sonic Superstars is supposed to kind of be in between there, and even Sonic Force, even though I don't think it's necessarily canon anymore, is kind of in between there. So I think from a business standpoint, you have these opportunities to make these classic Sonic games that can also start to bridge that gap in between, the classic era and the modern era. And we might get really cool stories, really cool gameplay mechanics, really cool Sonic designs out of it. And I know that there's definitely a business sense of wanting to keep classic Sonic looking the way he is, and you can still do that. I mean, like, time in video games is silly. You can keep things going for as long as you want. But I feel like there's this actually, this goes back to what Luke said earlier as well, like, with these nonsense things of like this barrier between classic and modern, it's stifling creativity. Get rid of the barrier. Let there be creativity. That way you can make more games that can sell more money, and you can bridge that gap more, and also harness the good parts of business, use the creative parts of it, and make cool Sonic games.
Yeah, Sega just needs to commit to moving forward. You're right though, there is a precedent established in classic Sonic, and he's got a daughter called Sarah, and they live in the land of the sky. And,
you know what? If for some reason they just had this wild idea to make a Sonic OVA game, I would buy it day one.
Oh man, that would be something, wouldn't it?
I don't care if it was a trash game. I would buy it day one. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I want it to be good, but I would still buy it day one. Just to be like, yes, I support Sonic OVA.
Sega just need to get their shit together, and then this would work. That's sorry, like, it's so easy for us to say, like, and they need to make it good next time.
Come on,
you're welcome, Sega. Like, I don't know, but I think. Sorry, you were going to say?
I apologize for interrupting, but I also just had this thought, like, they have a lore team now, which, who knows how much input that actually really, really has in game development, but, like, they have a dedicated lore team now. They can make this bridge gapping that I keep talking about. Like, this can happen.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree.
Let them cook.
Yes, let them cook. That's why we got, like, because of these almost offshoot things that are still sponsored by Sega, we got cool things like the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic Mania, etc. So let them cook.
I think what they really need to do, though, if they really want Sonic to move forward, is they need to have him he needs to have a group of 5. Maybe he can have his old sidekick there as well, but a bunch of 3 new characters maybe, and we can get introduced them through a form of a rap at the beginning of the game when you load it up. And it's performed by Grant Kirkhope.
Hey! This is just you trying to fish me back into the conversation, isn't it? You're trying to see if I'm paying attention. Well, guess what? It worked.
And this time, he's in the mood.
Oh no!
Oh, is he?
Oh, no. Stupid podcast. Anyway, the solution, basically, the summary here is: give me back the things I used to like. They're still good, actually. The end.
Gotcha.
You should listen to me. I'm always 100% serious.
Don't worry, sir. We're almost across the street.
Anyway, that's Classic Sonic, and that was a classic episode of the podcast. We talked about something we've talked about a lot of times before, but now we had a guest. So let's hope things are better in the future so that we can embrace the past in a way that moves us forward and also hold right to win. So so thanks for joining us. You can find us all across the internet in various places, but not the bad ones. You can find me on most places at Faulerro. That's Faulerro.
You can find me on the Nintendo OnlyFans as CyberLink 420.
I was sitting on that one this whole time.
Can I have a link? I kind of want to subscribe. $400 a month? That's outrageous.
$420 a month.
No, that's capitalism.
That's outrageous.
You can find me across the internet as RockTheJake, and you can find me on Twitch as Mr. RockTheJake.
You can find me in various places at CyberLink 420.
Including OnlyFans.
Won't let it go, will you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at jeremybaker.actor, and the rest of the internet is GameBuddy, sometimes with a 123.
You can find me on Blue Sky at apeofthehour.social. You can find me on YouTube as Ape of the Hour, and you can find me on Twitch as Ape of the Hour.
Yeah, and you should. What a funny, interesting guy who's played some Sonic games.
Some of them. Whatever you do, don't go to my YouTube. For everyone here, don't go to my YouTube channel and watch the Sonic Adventure Ape-approved video. Don't do it. You'll be very upset. I'm
definitely
be very honest
not clicking to YouTube and definitely not doing that right now.
You're going to be very upset about it.
Apes. They're Sonic fans. Upset is their natural state.
That's my secret, Doctor. I'm always angry.
He's always been the Ape of the Hour. He didn't used to be the Ape of the Hour. Now they think he's a coward. That's where that's from, by the way. From the Donkey Kong show.
I'm nobody's hero. When's that episode? Bring me on for that episode.
We gotta talk about that cartoon.
We talk about the Donkey Kong Country TV show.
We got to. But special thanks as always to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. You can check out more of our work on YouTube and Bandcamp, and if this is coming out on one of those Bandcamp Fridays, throw some more money in, because then more money goes to her or something. I'm sure that's how it works. And remember to do all the podcast things, begging, etc. Subscribe, review, share. If you like the podcast and you liked us whinging again about Sonic things, as we want to do, then be sure to let everyone else know that we're whinging here, and so they can enjoy the whinging too. But next time on our podcast, well, it's about that time of the year again where we flex our creative muscles and we make it's a fanfic episode. We're going to be making another Sonic the Hedgehog fanfic live on the podcast and hope that it works once again and is a functioning story. I always enjoy these, and this should be no different in terms of enjoyment, so we'll see. We might have something fun planned for this one, so
it's gonna get quickly off the rails, just like all our fanfic episodes.
Yes.
It's gonna hurt.
Bigger, faster, and stronger, too.
But until then, well, thank you for joining us. I've been Faulerro.
I'm RockTheJake.
I'm CyberLink.
I'm GameBuddy.
I'm Ape of the Hour. And where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
Yeah.
Evergreen.
Legend says they are still searching for it to this day.
Perhaps an ape threw it out the window.
Probably knowing me. I fly into a violent rage whenever I hear the slightest bit of criticism or pushback.
Oh, like Sonic fans.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of which, this has been The Hill is Always Greener, and we'll see you on the other side
of the window.
And then there's Sonic. He's dead.